I focus on the beauty and joy of life in my art. I appreciate a sense of wonder in life and where we live in our universe, and I try to portray that within my work, that sense of wonder. I use symbols in my work as metaphors, so the flower can be symbolic of life, and the cups and the bowls often will be very symbolic of life itself, but as a soul, as a spirit that we can hold within the bowl for each individual. I make a lot of marks that are for tracking time, for recording events that we all share. It's something that's gone on in history that humans have done forever. The X is the unknown. It is the great mystery of life that we all share and will probably never have an answer to. And I like that you never have an answer. My materials are often part of my memory for the process of working through the piece. Everything that I use has some sort of story behind it. The fabrics I've bought from all of my travels all around the world, fabrics that friends have given me, pieces of fabric or old clothes that were my mother's, old paintings and drawings that I've had, I will tear up or cut up and use. So in a way you could say that my pieces are autobiographical because they are so much a part of my life as it has gone so far. Ultimately, I believe that we all have a shared life, that we are really all the same. We have the same basic needs, the desire to be useful, to be loved. By painting and sewing and weaving and making marks, I am blending all of our similarities into a unity of experience and how simple life really is. That's the beauty of life.
Hi, my name is Won-se Kim. It is really nice having a show with the Japanese artist in Tokyo. And also it is good to have chance introducing my artwork. So my artwork is all about nature because I live in a suburban area from LA, and then my studio is in a mountain in California. So especially this year, I tried to talk about talking about the kind of disaster in this area because Blue Fire happened the last year. There is a kind of a mountain fire. It attacked a lot of houses, and then people who live around this area lost their homes. So I pick up the ashes from the burned places and then try to add up on my work, and then put the more like not only about disaster, that is about kind of a hope or the aliving energy, the living energy. Try to put that kind of energy on my work. And also one more theme is about the vitality of nature. That is about this piece. I used the aluminum sheet for my artwork. That is about the industrial material. So that is not only about the traditional art style. So it is a mixed media, and then actually the theme is nature also, the organic form, and then the earth color, something like that. But I tried more like put the very strong kind of accent with the industrial materials. Okay, good. I love to do good relationship, making good relationship with the Japanese artists during the trip, and then love to have a good time in Tokyo. Thank you.
My name is Erin Fong. I'm one of the artists from Los Angeles, California. I'm a painter. I use a lot of acrylic painting on my canvas or wood panel. Besides painting on a flat surface, I use a lot of found objects that surround me in my environment to put into my painting. And these objects mean how we live in this society today in the 21st century. We use the product of the mass production, and then we waste them, we throw them away on earth. So when we throw the object that they're old and they're not used anymore on earth, it doesn't mean they go away. So in my painting, it carries the meaning of how human we occupy space on earth. So in here you see some residential area, at the same time you see the ocean. So the title of this one is Fighting for Space. It's like a game between the human and the environment. The more human live on earth, the less space of the natural resource left over for the next generation. Here comes the next part, painting about water in the environment. When the water gets dirty by the oil industry, those black particles would represent for the oil that drip on the ocean. This one is about same theme of the ocean and the environment, where fish and humans swim together in the dirty environment in water. And the theme of the ocean continue. A lot of time in my painting, the color is pretty subjective. It's the feeling of the artist, not the color of the environment. Here come the ocean, but the oceans turn colors. Usually we don't see orange, that orange in the ocean, but I use it like how we put chemical in the ocean with all the pollution. So you see the different color in the painting. With the other painting right here, how we occupy the ocean, occupy the mountain, how we do the environment. When we do that, the nature, like flower, like the animal, like the bird on earth, slowly they disappear. And whatever we have on earth is the empty earth right now.
I remember I was 5 and I started drawing with my teacher, and it was fun thing for me, and after that I'm still doing it. I feel like if I don't draw, and that means like I'm dead. You cannot survive without air, right? It's like that. Artist for me. Artist communication. My art piece could be the communication with people. They could have certain thoughts that when they look at my picture and they understand, that means like a communication. Circle of life is like a Taoism kind of stuff. Taoism means like understand each other, harmonize at each other. When you look at my picture and you feel like safe and peaceful, and that's what I expect you to like communicate with me.
I grew up with horses. I used to ride out in the hills and seem to remember my best times and my most connected times with nature was when I was riding. I went to college and started out exploring ways of expressing myself, and decided that it was important for me to express myself through the subject matter of the horse. I try to capture just the elegance of certain lines about the horse, and rather than trying to get every detail of realism, and I've gone back and forth between ceramics and painting and sculpture. I had a lot of paintings that were unfinished or I was not happy with, so I just went back into them, and I kind of took a heavy-handed approach of ripping, deconstructing the canvas, breaking, burning. I came up with this body of work that just kind of looked like the end of painting. A lot of them had horse subject matter in them, and I brought them home. They just populated my studio, and so I decided I needed to transform them into something three-dimensional. Got the help of a friend of mine, Dennis Richardson, and he helped me put together a tea house. So I decided I needed to make tea bowls. I made about 100 tea bowls, and I had a big reception at my house and invited everyone to come sit in my tea house. I served them tea and gave them the bowl afterwards. I thought since my tea house was kind of made of fragments, so I wanted to make non-functional tea bowls. And I thought that the tea ceremony, as a long tradition of holding tea, connecting people, and also the horse has this long connection with carrying humanity, and I feel that the two, the tea bowl and the horse, are kind of loosely connected in a way. I use the found objects because of what they represent. Some really beautifully crafted, carved, things that were made to be beautiful. We collect those things and try to use those in the art so that it avoids consumption and also reminds us to look at the beauty from the past.
The series is actually called Doodahs. It's been a through line. It's something I've been following for about the last 5 or 6 years. The glyphs that I make, those little shapes, actually constitute a form of meditation, which is very close to my own practice of meditation, which is mantra-based. I find myself, when I'm doing it, actually slipping into kind of that meditative state. The first time I heard the word doodah was actually in reference to that song. It's an old Southern jingle. Camptown ladies sing this song, doodah, doodah. But interestingly enough, my ex-wife actually looked at it one day and she was saying, "What are all those doodahs?" And it just kind of stuck with me. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Doodah, I like that. I've been meditating for the last 40 years. I don't talk about it widely because I think people that constantly are proselytizing about their spiritual practice don't have enough confidence in it. But it's something that a lot of people that have known me for a long time actually have picked it up through the example of my changing consciousness. It's integral to my work in many respects because the type of work that I do also encapsulates that spiritual energy. And I do derive a great deal of energy from doing this work as a result of those glyphs and those shapes that I make. The process actually is very much akin to something that the surrealists used to use back in the 20s and 30s called automatic writing, which basically is very spontaneous marks. I also put in a graphic sensibility. That's why they kind of start to take on the shapes of logotypes and things like that. A lot of people that look at it, they seem to also equate it with music. And music is also pretty important when I'm working. I listen to a lot of music. And oftentimes, I think these very spontaneous lines are influenced by some of the music that I listen to. Sometimes I'll get into sessions that last for 5 or 6 hours. A lot of these pieces that I've done actually have space in between, and when I started looking at them, I started to feel that they were a field. And I was thinking it was a field of cotton. Now, cotton is pretty important from the standpoint that I theorize that it probably exists in our DNA on some level. Recently there was a thing about people that grow corn or have grown corn for generations in Iowa, and some of the markers for corn were actually showing up in their DNA. And I know that a lot of my ancestors actually had to pick cotton And I'm thinking that maybe that's somewhere in that DNA too. This particular piece that I was working on had to do with the whole idea of the quotas that would be required of slaves on any given day. You had to pick so many pounds of cotton. And if you didn't pick those pounds of cotton, you were punished for them. And so I have the suggestion of punishment in the piece where you see this bullwhip that's coming and you see blood on the cotton. You can't sell cotton that has blood on it. There's a lady named Susan Mabry who actually held the record. She was a slave in Virginia in the 19th century, early 19th century, and she was reputed to have picked over 400 pounds of cotton a day. And nobody had ever topped that record. And I was thinking about what was going through her head while she was doing it.
Hi, this is my studio here in Los Angeles where I've worked for 20 years.
This studio is downstairs from my home, and it's where I usually make my smaller 2D and 3D work. Over the years, I have turned to everyday objects or the environment for inspiration. In both my 2D and 3D work, I recontextualize common forms looking for humor, stories, and psychological associations. I was influenced by the feminist movement of the 1960s to 70s and the conversations regarding alternative materials, which inspired me to incorporate textile and utilitarian techniques into my fine art processes. I have another studio in a building that originally housed our sculpture fabrication business. With my larger sculptures, I try to create a sense of lightness and texture by utilizing negative space and highlighting differences through the contrast of various materials. This series of sculptures is an example of how I was trying to create form using line, silhouette, and negative space rather than mass. Using a cardboard box for inspiration, we made a mold from the inside of the box. I have used this simple shape in several different series. With this new series of work, I am hoping to achieve a sense of balance between lightness and gravity, as well as between the familiar and the mysterious.
Come with me. I'd like to show you my studio. This is the big studio. I grew up in Oregon, a part of the United States that has big mountains and big trees, and I was always inspired by nature and the awe of seeing a huge cliff face, so that's part of what inspires my aesthetic. And then after I've carved things in foam, sometimes they're translated into bronze, so this is a bronze sculpture. So this is my process. This is how my sculptures get made. This is a hot wire. For the last 30 years, I've worked with a hot wire. This controls the electrical current in the wire and changes the temperature. This makes carving a spontaneous gestural process. Carving normally a chipping process, but this is quick and shows the hand of the artist. The other historical significance is that because the hot wire can slide through the styrofoam, I get both the positive and the negative form. So this piece is called Ain't Misbehaving, which is a famous jazz title, and it's a great example of the positive negative, where this piece was cut out of this piece, and I pulled them apart. And it's part of what I call the duet series, which is about a dance. And I've often described my work as a choreographed dance with a hot wire through the styrofoam. And so this is a great example and one of my favorite pieces. This piece is called White Lightness, Color Theory. And again, it's an example of positive, negative pulled apart, but I've put programmable lights on this piece, and it does some very interesting things, and I want to show you those things. So white lightness color theory is the beginning of my use of programmable lights. And this goes across the sculpture, and the three-dimensionality creates the shadows, and the shadows become the opposite primary color. So you've seen most of my work. Most of my work is big. So the challenge for the Tokyo show was to make things that were small and would fit in a suitcase, but still might get noticed in a big group show. So I made some small pieces and had them cast in sterling silver. And this is called the Artifact series, and it's supposed to remind you of going to a museum and finding an antiquity. And it's small, but it's beautiful and precious. So this is cast sterling silver, and usually they're shown on wood pedestals. But for the Tokyo show, I made some cloth pedestals so that I could collapse them and put them in my suitcase and bring them to Tokyo. Sometimes I have to use a magnifying glass. Whoa. Fragile.